So welcome everybody. Today is June 2nd, and I don't even know how that's possible, but it's possible. I don't know where that year went. This is our Tuesday tapping for coronavirus class. And, you know, with all the unrest that are happening and everything else that's going on in people's lives, I think we started off on a kind of a somber note here, kind of wondering where the hell are we? Sorry for swearing, but sometimes it's just feels better to do it that way than to find a nicer way to say things. That offends you. I will make sure that I don't do that. But it's an interesting thing, you know, getting through a crisis. I mean, the whole point of our calls on Tuesday mornings is to make sure that we get through these times on the highest note that we can. And that we initiate the change that we're here to initiate, if change is actually needed, you know. And I think that's really also a question that can be discussed, and people will have very different opinions there, you know. And I think it's important to just own that a little bit. But you guys are not here for these kind of discussions. So what are you here for today? What were you hoping to get today?
I was hoping to be able to release and get a balance from the fear that's going on.
What are you afraid of?
That we may have civil war.
We have civil war. Nothing to be afraid of.
Nothing to be afraid of?
No, we don't have to be afraid that we will have when we have one. We're in the middle of it. and Liz, I'm so sorry. You know, I don't mean to push your personal buttons right now. I
agree that there is civil war.
It's civil war. Yeah, we just had the American military shoot, you know, with the weapons they were entitled to use at peaceful demonstrators.
Yeah.
So that somebody could walk up and use a church as a prop. I'm sorry, but as a Christian, that really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. I'm concerned about it escalating more and more and more, and where that's going to go. And plus the future for my kids, too. Yeah. My adult kids and my grandchildren.
Why are you afraid for them?
The unknown of how this is going to turn out.
We know how this is going to turn out.
How is it going to turn out?
Bad.
Can it be corrected?
No.
No.
And the reason why is because it is not something that can be easily fixed.
No, it would take generations.
Okay? It's just like you can't think cancer pretty. You got to go through the steps.
Yeah.
Right? And being German, we grew up with this knowing, the historic knowing of what steps need to be taken. And I can tell you it takes 2 generations. 2 generations who are learning, suffering, who are being blamed for this, who are being accused, who have to hold the space for everything that happens. And then the grandchildren generation is the one who has an opportunity to do something better. But the problem with that is that, you know, which generation are we in?
Yeah.
You know, and so, and no, you know, and I think, I mean, you know me well enough to know that I love and respect you a lot. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing the calls. There's no point in saying, let's just sit and, you know, sing Kumbaya and, you know, there's also no point in freaking out about things that don't immediately impact us. And that's also important to know. You know, I live in, and I post this on Facebook, in the most beautiful place that I have ever lived in and ever imagined to live in, right? It's heaven, paradise out there with a big fat energy vortex right across my property. It is beautiful. So the question is also, how do you live knowing you live like that? How do we separate our own personal lives from everything else that's happening without removing ourselves on a level where we shouldn't be. Where is our place in all this? This is something as Germans we needed to figure out, because people say Germans are Nazis. No, Nazis are Nazis. Germans are Germans, right? And for at least one, if not two generations, this was not historical truth. To this day, you hear people say German Nazis. Well, what about everybody else who was a Nazi? A Nazi is a mindset. A Nazi is a you call it whatever, right? But it's not like you live in a certain area, so that is your political or mindset or philosophical place to be, right? And we have to really learn in order to feel okay and be able to continue where our place of power is, where our place of influence is. And we also, I think we have to learn to be miserable. This is not a happy moment. But this is also the only, at the same time, it is not, it's not like this just happened this week. Hey, darling. It's not this just happened this week. Judy, can you turn your camera on as well so we can see you? Would that be okay? There she is. Hi, Judy.
Good morning.
Going to sort out the hair?
It's been a morning.
I know. It's been a morning for all of us, and it's
been a week.
It's been a life. I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think if we want to be resilient as healers and as people who can make a difference, we need to be able to hold this energy. Right? We need to be able to say this sucks and it's going to suck for a long, long time, and so be it. Right? We need to be able to find pockets of rejuvenation, pockets of power. We need to have friends and people that we can hang out with that help us through these difficult times. But at the same time, we are living this life for a reason right now. This is happening in our individual lifetime in the way that it is. And there are things we need to do, and I think it's much, and we're going to be tapping on these kind of things for sure, because we have to, right? But sorry for getting back to the in German thing. I'm going to probably say this a lot today, but I'm being thrown back into history. And I grew up with this. My father was a World War II veteran. My mom grew up during the war. We grew up with war stories, and we grew up with historical understanding of what's going on right now, understanding parallels, not that it's the same, but seeing concepts at work. I was raised to do whatever I can, including putting my own life down to prevent that. And here I am watching it. Nothing I can do to prevent it, right? So it's just, that's why this is probably coming, and you guys may have a completely different background, and please share that too. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong, because I can't. I'm just going to speak as much as comes to mind, just like you guys, but we have to be able to hold this energy. We have to be able to say, hey, this is hard. Hey, this is wrong, and find our place of influence and use that, right? And be okay with being uncomfortable for a long, long time. Because this is uncomfortable. And, we should probably tap in a minute. But when I think about the reason we have this cultural divide, please correct me if I'm wrong, is because there's slavery in this country. Is that correct? The reason we have so many Black people in this country is because we had so many enslaved human beings. That by itself absolutely freaking blows my mind. Just the sheer amount of human beings that were enslaved, so that somebody could have a better life, cheap labor, bigger plantation, whatever it is. Why would we all of a sudden say, well, oh my God, that wasn't right, now I want to feel okay about it? There's nothing to feel okay about. I mean, just the amount of, it just absolutely blows my mind, Yeah, Barb.
try to talk. But this is bigger than black and white. This is Native American. This is Iranian. This is Jew. This is other. This is bigger than black and white. And it's so, to me, it's just so heartbreaking and overwhelming. I am living where I live in the same place you live. It's, again, it's gorgeous, etc. So I'm less fearful and more, what do I do? What can I do to make a change?
What do you want to do?
I just get settled with saying, okay, I just need to be kind and open the friggin' door and wear my mask, etc. But behind it is just such a load of sadness that I can't do anything. And that's not even true. We could do our little parts, but our little parts are so little compared to how big it is. Mm-hmm. And yet I know all of this has to happen. You know, we're being hit with another sledgehammer until we get it. And we aren't going to get it in our lifetime. I understand that. But in the meantime, it's so sad. And so, I don't know if everybody feels it to the depth that some of us feel it. You know, some people are seem to be good with going about, I'll buy a bigger boat, I'll buy a bigger, that doesn't cut it for me, and it never has. And I suspect it hasn't cut it for anybody on this call. So what do we do?
Yeah.
Other than, like you say, maintain our so-called sobriety so we can do when something calls, we're ready. But
are you ready?
Yeah, I've been ready a lifetime.
To do what?
I don't know. I just try to be the best person I can, the kindest person I can.
Is kindness always the answer?
No. I can never bring myself to be unkind, though, or violent.
I could.
I can't do that.
Between the eyes. You. That's the German in me. Not necessarily, but it's a good thing, you know, so you already know your place. You know you're not a warrior. You know, you're somebody who is a warrior, as in, I'm not going to go out to the front lines and pull people out of whatever. My place is in a quiet place to take care of that one person, to take care of those few people, to do this one thing. Right? So you already know why you're here. You think nobody needs that? I think Liz needs that. Right? Because Liz said before you came on, like, I just want to feel better. So you guys need to talk. See that? Seriously.
I want to find a place to be so it doesn't overwhelm me to be immobilized and spinning my wheels. I don't know how I can contribute in a positive way to be part of the change.
Which change would you like to be a part of?
The change where, and I agree with Barbara about it isn't just black and white, it's different.
And it always has been.
How to narrow the gap of that difference so that people are more tolerant of each other.
I
don't. Yeah. There's such a heavy undercurrent.
I think it needs to, one of the places it needs to start is with children, to support them in not being so scarred so that they're more resilient and can make better decisions when they grow up. That's not my personal, it's not what I'm what I'm doing is taking care of the earth mostly and branching into EFT. But I do think that our like for me, teaching the children to value the natural world and love it has been a big part of what I've been working on. But I think what we can do for the kids so that they don't come out so hurt and twisted and hating is one of the big steps.
And you know that you're not taking care of the earth, you're taking care of a parcel.
I'm taking care of a number of, well, no, that's not true. Now I'm only taking care of one parcel.
Okay, you're taking care of a parcel.
I'm taking
And you're not taking care of the people, you're taking care of a person.
Oh.
And we're not taking care of the problems, we're taking care of a problem. We're not taking care of nobody ever understands, or all people always do. We're taking care of one thing. That's how it works. Everybody does that who wants to be a person of influence. They go where the influence is and they make a really big deal about it. Right? I think the moment that we get intimidated is when we try to change humankind. Humankind hasn't asked for us to change it. Humankind has not asked for us to make it better. Humankind doesn't even exist, so to speak. Because as soon as you look a little bit closer, it's just all of that, right? It's all different. And at the end of the day, every single person, I truly believe this with all my heart, every single person on this planet, if you let them, and if they didn't have other problems that are more burning desire, burning problems, not burning desire, they would probably just want to feed their children to make sure they have a better life. Take care of their families, make sure their families have a better life, take care of themselves, make sure everybody is well and accounted for, and they just have a good life. That's what we all have in common. So as much as we can take care of a garden and say, well, I'm taking care of the earth, we can also take care of a person and say, I'm taking care of people. Right? But it doesn't feel enough right now. Why does it not feel enough?
Because there's so many that need care.
Who says they need care?
I think they need care looking at them.
Yeah, exactly. You believe they need help and they don't want help from you, so you feel powerless.
I think some of them would take help from me if I
showed up more.
Yeah, if I was bigger.
And how do you show up? What are ways you can show up?
Good morning. Seriously, I'm not kidding. That's the only way to show up. To just show up.
It doesn't have to be huge.
It cannot be huge. You're not big right now. Right? When you have 10, 15, 20, 40, 100,000, a million followers on Instagram, you show up on Instagram and it's huge. When you have 4, you show up for 4. Right? This is what I'm trying to really, I mean, I'm all about empowering you. And if you think that you need to show up huge, you can show up huge. I can tell you how to do that. You run ads on Google and on Facebook. You find sponsors. You connect with people out there who are influencers. You make sure they hear your message. You make sure that you need to have your ducks in a row in a really, really big way if you want to make a really, really big impact. And the reason we know that is because the people are doing that. And that's exactly what they're doing. The question is, are you willing to do that? And if not, then what are you willing to do? Right? But saying, well, I have to change the entire world, but I'm actually not willing to run Google ads isn't there's a disconnect there that feels very disempowering. And that's, I think, where a lot of people feel lost, right? There is a circle of influence. There is a place where we need to be, and there's a place where we don't need to be right now. There's a place where we may need to be, but don't want to be. We have a free choice there. But we can't stay in the woo-woo land. in the land of, yeah, I know I should change the world and get rid of slavery and the racial divide and what's happening in Yemen, and South America is a mess, and then the kids in the cages and the dictator in who knows where. I got to fix all that, but I'm not going to Google it. Right? We can't do that to ourselves. And I think that's really something that a lot of people are trying to do. Instead of claiming the place they're at and getting to work as big as they possibly can in that place, seeing what that does, and being a part of a solution instead of trying to be the entire solution. Right? Just be a part of it. Influence people of influence. Support people of influence. And always be clear on, am I adding to the problem by saying what I'm saying? Or am I going to be a part of a solution by saying what I'm saying? Are my words of any value right now? Is there anybody who needs to hear what I have to say? Or should I just rather just keep my mouth shut and go and sew some masks? Right? Really being clear on that. I think this is a thought process that a lot of people never put themselves through. And so they end up in the blame game and saying, well, the world is like this and it's the other thing. And then all of it is so awful. Now I feel bad. Instead of actually doing what you're here to do. Right? And that's how we as human beings make a difference. And the best way to make a difference is to do good work and talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it, people won't know, no matter how good it was. Does that make sense? And then you can inspire another person who inspires another person who said, oh my God, what a great idea. And then it goes boom. I've done that multiple times in my life. And you can trace your own story back and say, well, it wasn't really a big a deal to begin with. It was like, yay, big. But it inspired people. And they started talking, and it went out in the media, and it went out into all these different places, and it was a big deal. All of a sudden, it was this big deal traced back to a tiny little event. Right? But if we sit here and say, oh my God, the whole world is so horrible right now, and I want to change it all, and it's everywhere. And then in addition to that, find more examples for that to be true. We will never get to work. Yemen is not our problem here in New England. Yemen is a problem. Yemen is a huge problem. It is a heartbreaking problem. And problem is probably even the wrong word for it. You know what I mean by that. But it's nothing I can solve from Hopkins, New Hampshire. Right? Even if I stood on a chair and was waving my arms, the situation in Yemen would not be different. So what's the point? Does that make sense? What are we going to do? Because you all are here today. We have a very small group. And there's probably a reason why that is. And I only sent out 2 emails because I was feeling sick all weekend. Sorry. Yeah, last week was not a good week.
Are you feeling better now?
Sort of. Yeah, chemo has its ways. So you never know when you have power and when you don't. But I'm getting there. I'm definitely getting there. Steroids have their ways too. I found that, it's very interesting stuff. But I always believe that things happen for a reason in a certain way, So we do our class today with 6 folks, 5 and me. So let's go make some plans. What are we going to do? Right? Are we willing to do something, or are we just willing? And that's actually, this is a really big decision, you guys, and we all have to make is, are we actually willing to do something? Or is our comfort zone just talking about that things should be done?
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, dear.
To clarify. What I'm hearing is we need to do more than just talk to our friends or talk to other people. We need to try and find a way to reach people in a power position.
You can, you don't need to.
Right.
You don't need to do anything.
True.
You can just go about your life and say, hey, this is television and I don't watch that. A lot of people do that. You don't need to do anything. The question is, because you're on the call, the question is, what would you like to do? you know, because we can't let things weigh us down, and we also can't let them wear us out.
I know I would not be comfortable doing something in a big physical way.
Okay, so that's off the table.
Okay.
What are you comfortable?
Yes, I need to research what I can do from home.
Where would you start researching? I'm being so mean right now.
I know you're challenging my comfort zone. I'm right up against it.
And I hear that. And I do this really with great love and respect.
I hear you.
The thing is, when we say, I need to research, that means I'm not going to get into it.
Oh.
There's nothing to research. There's Facebook, there's your friends, there's your neighbors. You can open your mouth and talk. This is not research material. The question is, are you willing to speak? And if you do so, what would you say? And who do you think needs to hear you that you already know, so that you can talk to people that you already have a know, like, and trust factor with? So they say, hey, if Liz says it, let's have that conversation. It's simple. This is really, you know, moving people into action means only doing what your next baby step is. Just the next thing. Don't go to New York City or what else it is and say, oh my God, I want to make a difference in whatever it is. And now I'm going to go on a train, and now I have to pack, and I don't have the time, and I have a call at 4, and none of that matters. Right? This is the way that we don't get into action. And we have the right to do that. You know, I'm very mindful with the picking and choosing of what I do right now. And at the same time, that doesn't mean inaction, it means choice, right? You can only do what you can do. And that's, if you do that, then that's awesome, right? So what are you willing to do? Or, and this may be a tapping factor, what are you afraid of? You only talk to people who like you already. You have a good rapport with. They already know what you stand for. They will not be surprised by you being mad about certain things. What's the self-talk around that?
How to talk to people with an opposite view?
Don't.
No,
because they don't want to hear you. Unless they want to hear from you, they're not going to listen. I will not change the mind of somebody who doesn't like me.
How do you shift? Let's see.
Now we're getting somewhere.
How do you reach someone? How do you shift for people to hear?
So there was a time in my life.
I'm sorry?
There was a time in my life. I had about 10 days. My daughter was probably 3.5. She was in preschool. My husband was in school. And he said, you have 10 days to yourself. Why don't you go travel? And he believed I would go to Venice Beach, hang out on the beach. Well, I don't know where he got that information from, because I got my hiking boots and I went to Bryce Canyon and Zion. And I went, you know, I had bananas and yogurts in my cooler. It was absolutely fascinating. I just got a little rental car, put, you know, food at the gas station into the cooler, got a cheap little $1.59, you know, travel mug for coffee. So the coffee was always full, and just headed up, right? And so one of the hikes that I did was through Bryce. And I'm not a big hiker. I'm not like one of those adventurous hikers, but for some reason, I knew the hike I was going to do was about 2.5 hours, so no big deal. But I packed like a mule. Okay, I had about 2 gallons of water with me. Okay, I had apples, I had food, I had any supply you can imagine in a backpack for a 2.5 hour hike. Okay. Call it fear. I drink a lot. I just do. And I drink water. I drink a lot, but it's water. But I knew I did not want to run out of water. Okay. So there was no way. I had all these bottles stacked up, the side pockets, the back pockets, and I was walking into the canyon. It was beautiful, beautiful day. And it got just drier and drier. And they always said, make sure you're well hydrated, because there are no resources in there. And about halfway in, I saw a little girl in overalls, little jeans overalls. She was about 5, with one of those, Poland Spring little water bottles. What's in there? Quart? No, it's less, right?
Pint.
A pint, right? Empty bottle. Halfway through I knew the track they were on. We were on the same. This was the shortest way out. No water left. Crying. And then I saw a mother with a child on her shoulders and a child in her arms. No water left. I saw the father with another kid on his arms. They had 8 children with them. No water. So guess who had the water? Right? The biggest, most humbling blessing I ever experienced was to realize there's a difference between asking for a miracle and being a miracle. And she literally said, Mom, I think she's an angel and she must come from God. And I thought, no, I'm actually coming from right? So I filled up all the water bottles. I had plenty for myself. They were all just super happy and were drinking and whatever. And I went on my way. And then a little bit later, I ran into them again. No water left. And I knew they had at least a good half hour. At least a half hour. So guess who had extra water? And an apple for the mom who had a bright red face at the time. Right? She needed that apple. Whatever is in the apple, she needed that. So I got the mom back on track. I got the kids back on track. The father got some more stuff. I gave him the extra and just kind of stayed with them until everybody safely moved out of the canyon. What do you think I did that day?
Right.
Can you tell the story to somebody else? Is this a touching story?
Mm-hmm.
You change the world by storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Because storytelling brings reality to a thought. You need to know your stories. That's how you get the people to listen. That's how you create an image in them that they can say yes to. That's how we take the index finger out of their face, telling them what to do, and lead by example without them even noticing it. That's how we get a smile on their face before they even know what they're smiling about. Because they think, what a good idea, and I think where this is going. Storytelling is the way that you change people's hearts. You're welcome. So know your stories. Know why you care. Know why this is important to you. Know how hard it was to be in a hard situation. Know and think about why the people that are listening to you, that if you want to talk to them, you want them to listen to you. Think about why they should. Not why you want them to, but why they should. Given that their life is not your life, why should they listen to you now? What is in it for them? Other than that you get off your chest that they need to change because they got it wrong. Which is certainly not what they believe. Right? That's how that works. Being authentic. Knowing your stories, knowing why you care, knowing that you will care even if they disagree. And just going through that. Does that make sense? So I gave you an example of this, right? And you all, I know, Judy, I don't know how well we know each other, but I know the rest of the ladies here a little bit more. So I want to hear more from you. We all have our stories. Plenty of them, right? And the thing nobody can ever deny is your truth. Okay? As soon as, and you see this also when you write a blog post, for example, or you try to give an interview or whatever it is. The most boring ones are the ones that start with all people should or people never do. It's like, who the hell is that person to even say that? You know? This is so weird to even say. Most people do. Like, what? No, not me. Not anybody I know. So, and that is this when people don't want to take responsibility. When they don't really want to make a change, they just want to get it off their chest. But if you really want to make a change, you need to know why you care, personally. And why you will care even if the whole world disagrees with you and you still care about it. We can have a discussion about spinning yarn. I'm a fiber spinner, right? I love it. The thinner, the better. We can discuss it and you will disagree with every single thing I say. It's expensive. It doesn't make any sense. You don't knit with it. You can buy it much cheaper in the store, and I understand all that, and I still like to do it. Okay, that's kind of what I mean. You find your point of view, you know why you care, and you will not budge. You will not budge for the life of you, because this is who you are and this is what you do, and that's the story, and nobody has the right to take that away from you. How does it feel? Does that make sense? This is clearly my point of view, and you may disagree. Yeah, Judy.
As an activist, one of the things, like right now I'm dealing with compassion burnout.
Yes.
And one of the things
I think you just froze,
different
Judy.
jobs I've had, different experience. He did not go into doing what he did. He wasn't planning to make such a big impact. He didn't even want to take it on.
Tell us again, who was that you were breaking?
Sorry, Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
He, from the little bit I've read, and I'm not an expert, he did not go into this thinking, I'm going to make a big impact.
Right.
He took it on. I look at the bathroom and go, oh my goodness, I've got a lot to clean. I can't do it. It was step by step. And with activism, everything I've done, it's meeting people where they are and connecting with them where they are. Because if I'm here going, rah, 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 I'm right, you're wrong, I've lost them.
Yeah.
And if you connect, and I've found this with every job I've done, how do I put it? It's like when I go for a walk, my prayer is, show me where I should go. It's like, who should I talk to? What should I say? What should I do? And show me when to shut up and when to listen. It's meeting people where they are, because where I am and where they are can be miles apart. But if you connect, there's a better chance they'll listen. And they may not agree with what I say, but it's planting seeds. It's like, I can't remember the person who just a few minutes ago was talking about children. Children are seeds. We plant seeds. Children don't come into this world hating. They don't. They do not come into this world hating. It's showing up. And who are you? What example are you? Because I can talk about love, but if I'm foaming at the mouth because I'm so angry about something because it's an injustice, they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to listen to me. It's connecting, and it's hard. It's really hard because there are times I am upset, am angry. I mean, there are different things I'm working on right now, dealing with animals and whatever, and I am angry. I am upset. But if you're calm, once you've lost them, they're not going to listen to you.
And I love what you say. And I also think it's really important to know that most of the time we should probably not be talking. When we're angry, we shouldn't say, I'm just going to calm myself down and talk about love. No, I'm mad as hell. I will not talk about love today.
Exactly.
I will not. Why? Because this sucks and I am not okay with that. And I will not just shift in a fake way and completely ignore how I feel and just pretend that love is better than love, whatever, because this is obviously not a good example for what I wish to believe, which happens to not be true today because it's happening even though I don't want it to, right? Be honest with how you feel, but both sides. Right? And it's totally, this is what they're saying right now is, just shut up and listen. If the police, if they say, look, you're right, then take a knee with the people who are also taking a knee. And they're doing that, power to them, right? That is a beautiful thing if that works for them. If it doesn't work for them, just stand back. I'm very quiet in public because I grew up with parents who grew up during World War II and whatever the Holocaust was. And I was trained to be quiet in a dictatorship, right? I know that in absolutism and dictatorship, you must not open your mouth because they will find you. So I do my things in a very different way. You will not find me spewing around on internet. It is not happening. I know we're getting tracked and I know we're being there's nothing in it for me. I will not be able to do what I want to do or have an impact in the way I want to have an impact if I constantly have to be on the lookout for people who put me on a list, right? It's different for other people, but for me personally, that's the way it is, at least at this moment.
Thank you for saying what you just said. My parents were from Hungary, and they left because of communism. And people don't want to hear about communism in North America. It's just like, whatever, that was.
They don't get it.
No. And, my mother grew up during the Holocaust. oh, she was a young girl actually when her father was taken away. It colors your perspective. If I'm in jail or dead, I'm of no use to anyone.
I hear you.
You know, and you know, my parents coming from a communist country, well, it was becoming communist. I don't know these.
I want you to tap as you say this, because this is right now a tapping moment. Just keep tapping while just, and we all need to do that because this is a big deal.
Because I don't even know half of what my mother went through. You know, on being a female of a certain age, I was raised to be a good little woman, you know, to be a lady. Mm-hmm. And the word lady for me, you know, meant, you know, shut up and put up. And I don't do that. I've never been that woman. And, you know, it didn't always win me applause. And nor was I going for applause. I don't need the ego gratification. But having parents from a different country who spoke a different language, and I had to learn English because I was born in Canada. And, you know, they went through what they went through. And you can't talk about their history because you don't want to push buttons. And I was brought up with, well, you wouldn't have survived, you're this and that, and you're spoiled, you're entitled, and, you know, don't be selfish. All these things come into play. And plus, we're women. I mean, I haven't scrolled through all of this, but we're women. So, you know, plus, you know, if you're an angry woman, no one's going to listen to you. If you're young, then you must be PMS.
What's up with that?
Yeah, if you're an angry young woman, if you're a young woman and you're angry, you must be PMSing. You know, it must be that time of the month. You know, dismiss. If you're an angry older woman, you're an old crone. You know, you had your time. Shut up. You know, and I don't have problems with that because I talk to everyone, no matter what age. And you know, and I have a real problem with millennials. They're either incredibly amazing, and I will bow to young women, say, look, you know things I did not know at your age, and I bow to you. And then there are others who are a waste of space, and it's selfie, and they scare me because they are the future. So it's learning to meet people where they're at. You know, if somebody's into selfies and it's, you know, where she bought whatever, we're not going to have a conversation.
It depends. If she has good shoes or good yarn, I want to know both.
Sorry?
If she has the right shoes, this one. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's meeting people where they are. You know, and as an activist, you know, if I'll say, okay, I used to do what you're doing, but then I saw this, or I learned this, or I realized this. And if I'm telling my story in a way that hopefully they can receive, it's like medicine. If you sugarcoat it, they'll listen. But because if you come off as angry, they don't listen.
If you tell a story, they listen. Australia, how is this for you? Do you know Australia?
Sorry?
Do you know Israeli?
Really?
Australia. Originally from Lithuania. Stuck here for almost half a year now.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, you know, because there's lots of background. We all grew up understanding a whole lot more about who you need to be, and that you know need to find your way in suppressive or difficult political systems. I hear you. Yeah, Barb. I mean, and you guys don't need to raise your hand. I'm not your teacher. Let's just I think this is stuff, and let's tap through these things a little bit if we can, you know, because I think it's important to do that. And if something else comes up for you, let's talk about something else. I mean, it just seems to be, you know, just where it led today, I guess.
How do you deal with being overly sensitive? Because I suspect most or all of us in this group, I mean, I was not going to watch the video, you know, just seeing the picture of what was happening to George Floyd was enough. And
I have not seen that.
Unfortunately, I did.
I saw the neck on the thing, and I just go sideways as far as my legs can carry me. You need to
photo alone.
And that's
I mean, it made me nauseous. You know, it's not an image I'm going to forget.
Yeah, I will
that
not.
Or the white police officer with his hands in his pocket, like, no big deal. You know, if you're a sensitive person, this is going to break you if you don't deal with it. How do you deal with being empathic? How do you deal with the story?
Tell you story.
How do you deal with it?
I tell you a story. So, growing up in Germany, we did our school trips to concentration camps. Okay, we did. I grew up in Cologne, so White Rose may tell you something. The White Rose, the student movement against Hitler. Maybe not, but they were. Yeah, they basically they got shot later. They got executed. Sophie Scholl, Peter and Sophie Scholl. Anyway, they were from Cologne. And, you know, that's where we did our school trips too. We were raised to understand what happened. We literally, you know, this is part of your upbringing. When you grow up in a fascist, in a country with a fascist background, and people in America will learn about this too, because they are growing up in that right now. Hopefully, I don't know. I mean, they still have an entitlement sense that Germans completely lost during their horrific history. You know, they just lost all sense of entitlement, and that's a good thing until the borders came back together, and then the East started to be entitled again. And boom, everything was back to old shit. So anyway, and I remember being on my high school, you know, the last final trip. We went to Prague, and then we went to Theresienstadt in different concentration camps. And I remember just, you know, they show you the videos, they show you the pictures, and this time was still so close to history that it didn't seem as removed as it is today. You know, I graduated in 84. You know, compare 84 to the end of the war. This is nothing. You know, that's like the 90s, right? Or 80s. Or I haven't done the math, but whatever. It's like very recent. And I remember just looking at these piles and piles of dead bodies. They were just piled on top of each other, and it was just skin and bones. And just staring at it and bursting into tears and crying my eyes out. And my teacher stood there. I'll never forget her name. A very favorite German. She was my English teacher, Frau Salov. Very, I should know, right? Very, very wonderful person. And she stood there, watched me, and then eventually she grabbed me by the arm and said, "I think it's enough now." And I'll never forget that. And I was like, "No, I have to understand. I have to get it. I have to be there." And she said, "You did. As soon as you get why you are watching this, it's okay to walk away. You don't have to torture yourself. You don't have to put yourself through something that immobilizes you. You don't have to put yourself through something that dispowers you. The whole point of being exposed to these situations is to be empowered in who you want to be, not dispowered and left lifeless and traumatized. Our job is not to be traumatized and carry the pain for other people in such a way that nobody knows what to do with their lives. So that's what you do. You need to know your boundary. And if you are, you know, if you're sensitive, and we all are here, you know, if you're hypersensitive, Barbara's hypersensitive as well, your boundary, your limit of what you need to take in order to absolutely clearly get the idea, maybe a split second, maybe less than 2 seconds. You see it, you get it, you leave. Why? Because you got it. There's nothing in it for you to find that you don't already know. But if you keep looking, it's going to destroy you. And you have not only the right, but also the responsibility to do that. Just like my teacher had the responsibility to grab me and pull me away. And if she had not done that, it would have destroyed me, because my mind goes crazy, very visual, right? And her responsibility was just to make sure I get it. And your responsibility is only to make sure you get it. And then you make up your mind, is this something I can do today, easily, without any personal risk? And we're meaning risk to life and livelihood. Not that people unfriend you on Facebook. Oh, I've unfriended so many people. It's a joy right now. It's like, okay, shit. But yeah, not like that. I might have to get something to wipe my coffee off. But to really just understand how much you need to know in order to do what you want to do. Does that make sense? Hold on. Are we here? I have to tell you something. I just spilled some coffee. I will have to go and grab a piece of something to wipe that off. I'll be right back, okay? Just a minute. And you guys can clearly keep talking. That just happened. Just a minute.
Well, since we're we're here. I could tell a little bit of a story about how I've connected with people in the past, just for fun. So I've been doing natural areas restoration for 20 or 30 years. And when I started doing field trips to show people what the land used to look like, as far as we can tell, nobody was very interested until I started talking about, in the notices, about how it related to our history. And because a lot of the people who live here in the South live within a few miles of where their ancestors settled 200 years ago. And so when I started talking about, this is the history, here's what our ancestors saw when they came to this land and settled it, and here is how they used the different trees and plants that are here. And all of a sudden, all these people were coming who probably vote really differently than the way I do, but they were excited about the land and about what they were seeing in a really fun way. And I felt as if they were valuing this, what we were doing, as a window into their own past. So it was a nice connection.
So you taught them why they need to know it, not just what there is to know.
Right.
You gave them a reason why they should listen.
And it was personal.
And as soon as you make that personal, when people understand why they should listen to you, they will. And our job as people who want to make a difference is to know what to do the brain work ourselves and the heart work ourselves to understand, does this person actually need something from me? Is it my desire to just tell the world who I am? Or am I in the unique position to share something with somebody that can make a difference? And am I the right or the best person to do that? And what has earned me the right to talk to them? This is a process. We talked about this last week, just like a speaker. You know, just because you have a speech ready doesn't mean the audience needs to hear it, right? We need to be clear. Why is it that I know that this person, that I'm going to show up for this person in their life at a time where they need to hear me? Because otherwise we're violating their space too. You know, just because we're right doesn't mean they need to hear. There are a lot of right things that people will never know about. Right? And I think as we step up as healers, as people of influence, as influencers, whatever, as however we see ourselves, this is the crucial step. This is what everybody does who actually really gets listened to. They know exactly who they're talking to, why they're talking to them. Of all the things they have to say, they pick the one thing that fits for the person listening, and they give it to them in a story. Does that make sense? Watch this on TV and you will see this over and over and over. The better leaders they are, the more stories they tell and the less opinion they give. When they give opinion, they give it very personal. They tell you, I'm pissed. I personally care because, right? And then they step back, go back into the story or the big picture. And that's what everybody does. And this is a skill that if you want to make a difference, and I know you'll do, time to learn or improve or use. You're probably all good at it already, so just go out and use it. But that's how that works, right? And it's not researching where are people that now, where is that outlet? We never talk to 50 million people. We only talk to a few. Does that make sense?
I write. I'm a poet. And it sounds silly to say, oh, I'm a poet, but I have a passion for it. And I realize that I'm not an activist in the sense of going out and trying to convince somebody or hold a sign or anything. But I look at my own pain through my own childhood, through my own growing, the wisdom that has come with the years that have come with me. And I just write. And I didn't even know who's going to hear it. But I do know that I have a passion to reach those who need to hear it. And they do. They do. Those who need to hear it and are moved by it. So the only thing I care about is show me how to write so well that I can raise emotion within another person, whatever that is in them, to help them not go through what I went through, and to believe in themselves. And how is that connected to all of this? Because I kept thinking, well, gee, should I go on Zoom? Should I, no, I don't think that's my place. I think my place is to just keep writing, trusting that it's going to reach the ears of the people who need to hear it, and it's going to move them. Because what's going on, I think, with the other versus me, is there's this self-esteem, this not believing in yourself that fuels all this. Person doesn't turn to drugs if they feel good about themselves. They don't need to put, this is my own belief, but I don't believe you need to put someone else down if you're feeling good enough about who you are. So my poems are an attempt to make people say, yeah, I am good. And then not have to be pointing fingers or putting other people down. Anyway, I'm just sort of sorting out, where do I go? I'm not a sign holder, and I'm not a violent person, but I'm beginning to see that my own childhood and all the things, the way I thought, have lessons in them. And I may not share them as stories per se, but in poems. And anyway, I'm babbling now.
No, you're not. You're making perfect sense. You give an exact example for finding your place and doing it consistently. Good for you. Good for you. Right? Do you guys want to tap today on something? What are we going to tap on? What time is it? Let me just double check. Yeah, we have a little bit of time. I don't know. My personal feeling was this was necessary. I think we need a place sometimes to have the courage to go into a dark spot, into a dark place, without feeling like we're getting lost in it, but really looking at things deeper, not alone. Going together in a tunnel is a different feeling than going alone and saying, oh, it's dark in there. I think I have to come back with a flashlight. It's a dark tunnel, but it's just a tunnel. It means there's a way in and there's a way out. Right? And I think we have the capacity to get through the tunnel. What I don't think we have or can guarantee is that the other side is going to be beautiful paradise. I think that sense of entitlement can go by the wayside. We don't know what's on the other side, but we know there is one, and we'll find out. Right? There's a difference between being allowed, having the right to pursue happiness, and being entitled to happiness. And I think we all have the right to pursue it. And that's it. And I could imagine, Judy, that that's your problem with the millennials sometimes, who have an idea that they are entitled to happiness, and they're not. And it's not written down anywhere that we have anything other than the right to pursue it. And if we get happy, good for us. If we don't, we don't. I mean, why should our life be different than the life of other people? So here we are in a somber place, right? You want to tap? Getting out of this?
Can we tap on that horrible moment, that feeling nauseous, thinking about what happened?
This one? The neck part, the moment he was killed? Did you watch this all the way?
I can breathe. I didn't watch, but I have a good imagination.
Yeah. Yes, we can. And this is going to be, I'm glad you say this, because this is certainly important. Okay, so Let me be all EFT master trainer with you right now, and just tune into your body and localize that feeling. Okay, so we're not going to go all spiritual on this one. We really just have to address the trauma of this. Very straightforward. Where do you feel this in your body when you think about it? Just a little check-in. So now, where is it for you?
For me, here.
All the way up from my, just above my pubic bone, all the way up to the back here.
On a scale of 0 to 10, how intense?
7.
7. Okay. And Azraeli, how is it for you?
It's 10.
It's a 10. And where is it?
Yeah. In my throat and in my heart.
Oh, throat and heart. Okay, keep that in mind. And where is it for?
Very sad.
Yeah.
Mine is in my arms.
Okay. And how intense?
Probably 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Okay. And how's it for Liz and Judy and Charlie?
My neck and my chest.
Neck and chest. How intense?
6, 7.
Okay. And Judy?
7, 8 from belly up.
Okay. Charlie, how's it for you?
About a 6, and I feel a nauseated feeling in the back of my throat.
Okay. Alrighty. So I guess we're all in the same boat here, right? Okay. Karate chop point. Even though I have this nauseated feeling, and I'm just going to use the word nauseated feeling in my throat as a placeholder for whatever specifically it is you feel and how intense it specifically is for you. Okay. So if you want to change that, you can. I'm going to keep the mics open. I think we all need a little community right now, and take it from there. Okay. Even though I have this nauseated feeling in the back of my throat.
Even though I have this nauseated feeling in the back of my throat.
What a horrible, horrible thing.
What a horrible thing.
And I don't know how to relate to this.
I don't know
how to relate to this.
I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do.
I'm standing here watching this.
Standing here watching this.
In my mind.
In my mind.
And feeling deeply the horror of that time, of that moment.
Feeling deeply the horror of that moment.
But I deeply and completely accept myself anyway.
But I deeply, completely accept myself anyway.
And even though I'm very sensitive.
Even though
I'm very sensitive.
And it might even be more than that.
It might even be more than that.
And I have this horror in the back of my throat.
I have this horror in the back of my throat.
And I don't even know if it's okay to shake that.
And I don't even know if it's okay to shake that.
Shouldn't I hold onto it just to bear witness?
Shouldn't I hold on to it just to bear witness?
Shouldn't I hold on to it just to give the horror honor?
Shouldn't I hold on to it just to give the horror honor?
To give the man who died honor.
To give the man who died
honor.
Is it okay and fair to him if I let this feeling go?
Is it okay and fair to him if I let this feeling go?
Because I want to do something.
Because I want to do something.
And I
want to do something.
There's not much else I can do.
There's not much else I can do.
I am so sorry.
I am so sorry.
But I completely accept myself anyways.
I completely accept myself anyways.
Top of your head, I am so sorry.
I
am so sorry.
Inside of the eyebrow, there are no words.
There are no words.
Outside of the eye, there are absolutely no words for what happened.
There are absolutely no words for what happened.
Under the eye. I don't even know how to talk about this.
I don't even know how to talk about this.
Listen up, I wish I could do something, anything about this.
I wish I
could do something, anything about this.
Lower lip and chin, I hate to be so helpless and just a
I
bystander.
hate to be so helpless.
I hate to be so helpless.
And just a bystander.
And just a bystander.
Collarbone, I feel this so deeply in my throat right now.
I feel this so deeply in my body and my throat right now.
I feel this so deeply in my body right now.
I feel this
so deeply in my body right now.
Top of your head, everything inside of me got blocked.
Everything inside of me got blocked.
Inside of the hour, watching this horror unfold.
Watching this horror unfold.
Outside of the eye, and I'm so sorry.
And I'm so sorry.
Under the eye, it breaks my heart in more ways than anybody can ever understand.
It breaks my heart in more ways than anybody could ever understand.
And my tears are authentic.
And my tears are authentic.
No, chin. I really cry about this.
I really cry about this.
Collarbone, this breaks my heart in so many ways.
This breaks my heart
in so many ways.
Under the arm, this should have never happened.
It should have never happened.
Top of your head, and all this trauma that relates to it.
And all this trauma that relates to it.
Inside of the eyebrow, this is not the first time this happened.
This is not the first time this happened.
Outside of the eye, and I've stored grief of generations.
And I've stored grief of generations.
Under the eye, in my energy field.
In my energy field.
Nose and upper lip, and all those generations grieving.
All those generations grieving.
All these generations being violated.
All those generations being violated.
Collarbone, in unspeakable ways.
In unspeakable ways.
Under the arm. Talk to me right now and want me to speak up.
Talk to me right now and want me to speak up.
Top of your head, and the problem is that I don't know what to say.
The problem is that I don't know what to say.
I don't know who to say it to.
I
don't know who to say it to.
I don't know how to do it in a safe way.
I don't know how to do it in a safe way.
Under the eye. I don't know how to say it so that it actually does make a difference.
I don't know how to say it, so it actually does make a difference.
What kind of difference do I want to be able to measure?
What kind of difference do I want to be able to measure?
What kind of measurable difference am I longing for?
What kind of measurable distance am I learning?
Collarbone, how am I going to measure it?
How am I going to measure it?
Under the arm, how am I going to know that I did well?
How am I going to know that it did well?
Top of your head, how am I going to know that I filled out my place?
How
am I going to know
that I filled out my place?
That I filled out my place.
Instead of about doing what I was called to do in this moment.
Doing what I was called to do in this moment.
Outside of the eye. I have this horror in my throat.
I have this horror in my throat.
Under the eye, whether it serves me or not.
Whether it serves me or not.
Whether it serves him or not.
Whether it serves him or not.
Lower lip and chin, whether it does any service to anybody.
Whether it does any service to anybody.
Collarbone, or just makes me feel miserable and immobilized.
Or just makes me feel miserable and immobilized.
Under the arm. And maybe, just maybe.
And maybe, just maybe.
Top of that, there's an even better way to honor what happened.
There's an even better way to honor what happened.
Inside of the eyebrow, truly honoring him.
Truly honoring him.
Outside of the eye, in an empowering way.
In an empowering way.
Under the eye, in a way that actually does make a difference.
In a way that actually does make a difference.
Nose and upper lip, not carrying it silently inside of myself.
Not
carrying it silently inside of myself.
Lower lip and chin, where the only person struggling is me.
Where the only person struggling is me.
Collarbone, but doing better than that.
But doing better than that.
Under the arm, finding my own voice.
Finding my own voice.
Top of head, finding a way to talk so that people listen.
Finding the way to talk that
so
people
that
can
people
listen.
Finding the right people to talk to.
Finding the
Finding the right people to talk to.
And honoring those who need to hear, but not from me.
And
Honoring those that
to
hear, but not from me.
Because I'm not the right person to give them a message.
Because I'm not the right person to give them a message.
Maybe, just maybe,
Maybe just maybe.
there's a much better way.
There's a much better way.
To honor what happened and react to it.
To honor what happened and react to it.
Something that truly reflects who I am at my core.
Something that truly reflects who I am at my core.
That allows me to act with integrity and dignity.
That allows me to act with integrity and dignity.
And an astounding sense of power.
And an astounding sense of power.
Releasing that feeling of my throat.
Releasing that feeling from my throat.
Releasing the terror in my body.
Releasing the terror in my body.
Releasing the physical memory of what happened to him.
Releasing the physical memory of what happened to him.
And allowing myself to not be tossed around by history right now.
And allowing myself to not be tossed around by history right now.
I'm being tossed around.
I am being tossed around.
I'm on an emotional roller coaster.
On a roller coaster.
I'm being taken for a ride.
I'm being taken for a ride.
And I don't know how to get off the roller coaster.
And I don't know
how to get off
the roller coaster.
And it's not safe for me to be on there.
And it's not safe for me to be on there.
I have to only look at a roller coaster and I start to vomit.
I only look at a roller coaster and start to vomit.
Roller coasters are not good for my stomach.
Roller coasters are not good for my stomach.
There's no point in getting on a roller coaster.
There's no point
on getting on the roller coaster.
I'm not getting anything from it that I need.
I'm not getting anything from it that I need.
Instead, it immobilizes me and stops me from acting.
Instead it immobilizes me and stops me from action.
Then I can blame the roller coaster.
I can't blame the roller coaster.
Instead of doing my own work.
Instead of doing my own work.
How are you holding up? What's really, how are you doing over there?
I feel guilty.
You feel guilty for what?
You know, even here in Lithuania, like people are horrified by what happened overseas. And little kids at school, my friend shared, my boy came from school and he said that, you know, and he was horrified for what happened. And the thing I can't breathe already going on since January, because this is what Corona did to people who got sick. And this is why it made everybody so angry, you know, like we had a lot of, you know, things to fight against, you know, and feeling guilty for not speaking out. I have an influence in Lithuania. I was even in a magazine like a month ago. Here.
You do or you don't have influence in Lithuania?
I do have an influence in Lithuania and I don't use it. I should use it. Oh, my hair doesn't look good. No, I'm on video, looks so stupid. I shouldn't do that.
Well, you can. You can do whatever you want. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, of course I want to do that, but I'm afraid to do that.
Well, so you're afraid to do it anyway?
I shouldn't.
There's no should. You don't need to do this. If you want to do it, you do it. Okay? Right now you feel, I don't know which one's worse, guilt or fear. I think guilt is worse.
Guilt is worse.
Okay, so here's a job for you, my love. You go on video and you let us know next week how it went. End of story. No discussion. Just go do it. You know how to tap. You tap. You get it done. You do it imperfect. Your 11th video needs to be starting to look better. The first 10 are supposed to look shitty. Okay? Why? Because you don't know what you're doing, so you're learning. Do a shitty one, send it off, say it's a shitty one, and the next one's going to get better. Put 10 in the books. And I'm not kidding right now. Okay? Because you're a poster child for saying, I know I should be. And I don't want you to be stuck. I want you to either put in the calendar or get it off your plate.
Or just forget it.
One or the other. Okay? Because you don't have the time to sit around and wonder about what you should be doing and if that's right or wrong or whatever. You don't need to do anything. But you then need to be happy gardening.
I want to do it. Yes. I want to have an
or whatever it is doing over there. Okay? So go do it. Got it though. Karate Chopin. Even though I can't breathe.
Even though I
can't breathe.
And that feeling is very physical to me.
And that feeling is very physical to me.
It's very understandable.
It's very understandable.
It just hits right home.
It just hits right home.
Absolutely horrible.
Absolutely horrible.
And it could even be that we have some past life memories in that too.
And it could be that we have some past life memories in that too.
And we can personally relate to this feeling of not being able to breathe.
We can personally relate to this feeling of not being able to breathe.
Maybe we were strangled in the past.
Maybe we were strangled in the past.
And realize there's nothing you can do when that happens.
And realize there's nothing you can do when that happens.
You just become limp and wait.
They just become memories.
Trouble hearing you.
You just become limp and wait.
Become
limp and wait.
When you really suffer, when somebody strangles you, you just stop fighting and become limp.
Just stop fighting and become limp.
And this is very personal.
And this is very personal.
And I wonder.
I wonder.
Why I need to feel this today. Why I need to feel this today.
Why I need to feel this today.
And even though I have this feeling in my throat.
And even though
I have this feeling in my throat.
Like watching something on television.
Watching something on television.
On the radio.
That it happens to me or people that I love.
Happens to me or people that I love.
Or that I should do something that I cannot do right now.
Or that I should do something that I cannot do right now.
I honor this feeling with great compassion.
I honor this feeling with great compassion.
And great respect for who I am.
With
great respect for who I am.
This is what I do.
This is what I do.
I care.
I care.
I care.
Yeah.
I care deeply.
I care
deeply. I care deeply.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I'm a leader.
I'm a leader.
Trying to find my place to lead.
Trying to find my place to lead.
I can't breathe.
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 I can't
I can't breathe.
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 How are you feeling now? How is it now?
For me, it's better.
It's better?
Yeah.
Anybody get worse?
I got worse because I stayed with my dad while he died of not being able to breathe.
Yeah. We need to address that. I'm not sure we can do that right now.
No, not now, but
Top off your head. Top off your head. I know this is a possible. I stayed with him and he couldn't breathe.
I stayed with him and he couldn't breathe.
He couldn't breathe.
He couldn't breathe.
The memory of that.
The memory of that.
Still in my body.
Still in my body.
Seeing somebody who couldn't breathe.
Being with
somebody who couldn't breathe.
The trauma of that still in my body.
The trauma of that is still in my body.
The trauma of that still in my body.
The trauma of
that is still in my body.
I can't breathe.
Can't breathe.
I can't breathe.
I can't breathe.
I can't
breathe.
Thank you, Brad. How is it now?
Better.
Okay. Top of yet, this remaining, I can't breathe.
This remaining, I can't breathe.
And whatever it does for me.
And whatever it does for me.
Why ever I'm holding on to it.
Why ever I'm holding on to it.
Why ever I feel obligated to hold on to it.
Why ever I feel obligated to hold on to it.
Maybe I feel an obligation.
Maybe I feel an obligation.
Maybe I just want to process the trauma.
Maybe I just want to process the trauma.
With great dignity and self-respect.
With great dignity and self-respect.
I have the right to start processing now.
I have the right to start processing right now.
Processing that trauma.
Processing that trauma.
So I can be free again.
So I can be free.
Funny enough, I understand the feeling when you can breathe and someone doesn't understand that you really can breathe. And it's not a joke. I choked and I said it like, that sound, you know. And I thought like, oh, I heard if I put my hands up, then I would be better. Like, and I'm like,
yeah.
And the young people started laughing at me.
Yeah.
Only my friend understood that I really can't breathe. And she rescued me. Like she came from behind and did that. I feel like that grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really one of those really awful moments when we know we are in deep shit and nobody sees it. People think you're making it up. They don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
I could even imagine that this officer didn't think that he did what he did. You know, he must have completely lost his cool. He must have completely not understood what is going on and, you know, lost his sense of time and whatnot. I mean, I don't know what was going on through his mind.
Or there's still pleasure too.
It could be pleasure, and it could also just be like, no, I have him under control. This is a huge guy. He's under control, and I'm going to fix that. And he did not realize that he was, but I mean, there's no excuse, and I'm not going to go there, you know, at all. But that is a reality. You know, I had several situations like that myself, from being strangled to almost drowning in water. And, you know, that's how you just become limp. You just think, okay, done. You know, I guess if that's how that is, there's nothing I can do. You check your boxes. There's no open box. You know, see what happens. And there's this moment. And, you know, when you're lucky, you get out of it. And when you're not so lucky, you don't. And it's awful. Yeah. I remember being, you know, in the water and screaming for help because it was drawn up by an undercurrent. And people at the beach, you know, were standing up and waving at me. You know, it's like, I mean, which part of this does not tell you this? So it's this kind of stuff. But see, at the same time, it makes us more of who we are. It makes us more authentic. You know, we can now choose to say, oh my God, this happened to me. You know, I got strangled. Now my whole life is in shambles and I will never be happy again. You know, or we can say, this happened to me. That's how I know. That's how I learned. That's how I became. And we can choose this, right? And I think the more authentic we are with the stuff that we've been through, the stronger we become in our message. So if we want to become really an authentic, strong messenger, it's important to not feel like we had it worse than others, ever, right? Or that nobody will ever understand. Most people actually understand you much better than you think. Right? I watched my father die when I was 19. You know, I know what that's like when his last breath is gone. It's tough, you know. It's weird. There's this moment before and this moment after. We don't have to feel like nobody will ever understand and it's all this big mystery and secret and You know, I had it worse than others. I had it better than others. We just have lives. And all of our lives are different. And at the same time, we're just like books that need to be read. All of us. Everybody has their story. Everybody has something that somebody else needs to hear. And I think our job is not to write all the books there are. That would be like writing the content of the internet. Right? Our job is to write the book or the story or the short story or the video or whatever it is. The thing that just comes to mind right here, right now. And when we do this consistently, we make more difference than we ever thought we would.
I have a
you may disagree. It's just what I think.
I have a thought that we were talking at the beginning, like the differences, how we can understand each other. You know, this I can breathe relates to all the people. Doesn't matter what color. Doesn't matter what race. Doesn't matter what country from. This is why everybody's understand. Yeah. Here, there's mostly white people. There's like no black people. One, maybe two, maybe five in the whole Lithuania. But they all understand what does that mean? I can't breathe. It's a human being.
It's the way
this is where life is, in the breath.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
This is might unite us.
And you can now decide, do you want to tap on that? And or do you just want to
share? That's okay.
You know. And I think this
like
is
kind
really
of good
important.
thing.
It's important, you know, being hypersensitive, which I think all of us are here. Which you know all of us are. Doesn't mean that we need to carry the negative. It just means we relate very quickly. Very quickly. You tell us something, we just get it. That's it.
I cannot feel many things sensitive. I start crying, you know, like I'm terrible crying. It's
yeah. Yeah, of course.
I think that for me, that's one of the wonderful things about being here is that I know I'm understood and listened to, and that I can do that in return, and it feels good. I mean, I live alone, so this is like to have a little group of people who feel at this depth. It's very rare for me. So when I see you cry, it gives me permission.
Quick show of hands, who else lives alone? So it's not like, oh, I live alone and that makes me different. No. 50% of our group lives alone.
It's 7 of us in the house. 7 of us in the house. It's a huge house.
I know. But I think Charlie lives alone too. Right, Charlie?
Yeah, but yes. You know, like it doesn't make it better.
Yeah. So there's 7 people on the call right now and 4 of them live alone. So it doesn't make, you know, it's not like this is different because I live alone. No. Most people on this call right now live alone. Does that make sense? Okay. So it actually, what connects you guys is more that you live alone than you don't. Right? So this is really, I just, you know, getting through this and stepping into leadership and whatever that means really realizing we are not so unique. Whatever we experience, somebody else has had experience too. Right? And we learn from each other. And not by thinking we have all the answers, but we certainly have all the stories. And if this is something that comes across or came across, that'll be awesome. You know, the things that we all remember about each other is our story, how we learned what we know. And that gives us the right to speak about them. I learned when I was that, and I watched this and that happening, that when you do A, then B happens. And as a consequence, if you don't want C, you need to really, that your story is what allows people to relate to your truth. And in order to own your story, you gotta be vulnerable. And get rid of the opinions and get rid of the anger. And then my parents did, or my sister didn't, or my brother did this, or whatever else it is. I have a brother and a sister, so one of them was always the person. You know, and you all do too, you know, it's just, that's not relevant anymore. It is the how we learned what we know. But what we know, we know. We know. We have the power to know. We have earned the right to speak about what we know. Because we learned it step by step. Does that make sense? I hope this makes sense. I hope this is not all over the place, and it probably is, but I just feel so passionately that we need to find a way through these times that is empowering right now, and not just sit there and watch in horror. What are you thinking? I think Barb just left us.
Yeah. She has a doctor's appointment.
Okay. So where are we at for today?
Well, I'm feeling more relaxed and more tender and vulnerable myself.
And what does it feel like to feel tender?
My heart is not clenched, it's more open.
Mm-hmm. So even though you're more tender, you actually feel more open.
Yeah, it's not tender like tender in pain, it's just tender like softer.
And you have a right to live from this point. You have a right to live your life from a place of tenderness and openness, and relate to the world from who you really are. Just being yourself, allowing yourself to be soft, allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Vulnerability does not make you weak. Vulnerability makes you open. And you have a right to just say no to anything that does not feel appropriate for your life right now. And that includes news outlets and people saying weird things. And, you have that right. And you actually, I think you kind of have the responsibility, because your job is to take care of the earth, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You guys know what your job is? Judy, do you know what your job is? I don't think I can hear you right now.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. Do you know what your job is, Judy?
I'm in a weird transition, trying to figure it out place right now.
Mm-hmm. What would you like it to be?
I used to make my living as a writer, and I've been dealing with health issues, so I've been very distracted,
Mm-hmm.
and other issues as well. But
Yeah.
it's communicating, and it's healing me so I can help others, because things I've been doing haven't worked. And the kind of writing I was doing before, yes, it would connect sometimes and make a positive difference, but it didn't go far enough. And it's finding, as we were talking, we all show up in different ways. I'm not going to be the one who goes to a rally.
That goes what?
I'm not the person who's going to go to a rally or a protest.
Mm-hmm.
It's one-on-one. I'm an introvert. It's realizing who I am and what works for me. It's words, it's communication. It's when the writer in me, when I learn something, I want to share it, but how to do it. And for me, it is one-on-one, or through my writing, which I haven't been published in ages. But I'm still trying to figure it out.
Why don't you just get a blog and just write? Just write. That's publishing enough. People will find you.
Right now, there are a lot of distractions. I'm in a very dysfunctional situation right now.
Then don't tell anybody you're doing it.
Can I say a word of inspiration? Imagine if 30 years ago, my friend, who just read what to do if someone chokes, month ago. Never tried it on anyone. Would think, oh, she must be choking, but I'm not good at it. I never tried it. Maybe I will pass.
That's a story right there, my love. That was a perfect story, well delivered. So Judy, how about we have your back and you get a blog and you don't tell anybody, and you write and you don't put it on your blog, or you don't click publish, but you put publish later. But you start getting it out of your system. Just get it out of your system, because it's in there anyways. You might as well get it out. And if you do that with consistency, energies will shift. This is all energy work we're doing here. Every word we're saying is placed like an energetic information. We know that, right? So the more you do it, the clearer it becomes where your energy is going to. And you can still hit unpublish. You can still say, I don't want to do this, but write stories. Just write stories. That would be my high recommendation right now. Because if you have the right to tell a story about dysfunctionality in the midst of a crisis, maybe that doesn't ring a bell for you. So don't feel any pressure or obligation at all, because that's not what you're getting here. Okay?
I'm not getting that at all. I think you've been amazing. This group has been an amazing experience. It's weird because I don't normally look at that Yahoo email address. So it was interesting coming across this. It's been a morning.
Yeah. Well, I think we are sometimes just best served when we look at things in a safe environment without fear, but really looking in the dark corners. And my background is in trauma work, real trauma work, like deep, fat, real crappy shit. And it's possible to do that when you're actually realizing you're not in that. It seems like it feels like this because I had a spinning. Well, I'm actually sitting at my desk, and the worst thing that happened this morning was that I spilled my coffee, which is, by the way, a problem, because coffee is a very big deal to me. And thou must not spill coffee. Right. But seriously, of all the craziness that I saw, on morning television or whatnot, I check email in the morning, whatnot. None of that happened in my life. The worst thing that really is probably going to happen, unless I figure this out first, is that the groundhog eats my salad. And I sprinkled coyote urine last night, hoping to avoid having my groundhogs eat my salad, because it just landed in my garden. And knowing that gives us the right to play with the thoughts and to play with the realities in a less cluttered way. I could probably, and I'm just talking about myself because it's the only thing I can talk about with authority. I can talk about fatigue right now, right? I can talk about blurry vision right now, right? If you want me to talk about fatigue, I will give you, I will tell you something about it, because, but that's not my life. My life is my garden too. My life is you guys. My life is so many different things. And the question, wherever you focus on my life, is what happened to Israeli over there in Lithuania. I think about you so often, love, because that is just crazy stuff. Now I hear about you and your background in your family from Hungary. I was in Budapest, and I love it there. My maid of honor is from Budapest. So I have very it's very dear to my heart. It's a beautiful place. The whole Hungary is just a stunningly beautiful country with a huge history. Humbling history. And then I know other people and what they've been through, and how hypersensitive they are. And everybody has their story. Just own it, for crying out loud. It's fine. Yeah. It's okay. And we don't always have to have the answers. Sometimes we just need to have the story. And the reason is because sometimes people say, oh my God, you too? You know, just like Bob said earlier, you know, but I live alone. Most of you do. All of a sudden, it doesn't feel so strange to live alone because 4 out of 7 are living alone. Right? So that's where your value comes in. That's where you can make a difference. That's where you can step up and do something right now in this moment instead of being scared. And the reality is that most of what's going to happen out there, if we're smart, is not going to impact us directly. It can impact us indirectly. It can impact us on a bigger picture where we don't have a face and a voice. That is a possibility, job-wise or whatever. But there are ways that we can avoid a whole bunch of trauma. And your parents learned that in Hungary, right? They learned how to do it, and you learned it from them. For whatever that's worth.
Yeah, and I think I'm introvert too, but not just because of that. Most of my life I lived in Soviet Union, and there is still fear to speak up.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep it.
The communists were worse than fascists, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
And
people in this country will
okay, we will tap. We will tap on that.
It's important to know this. Yeah, I did trade with Russia for a few years. I was in Moscow, and I was just shocked to see how unbelievably difficult it can be to live. And when there is no right, when people can literally just come and scoop you up, it's been eye-opening. Corruption, eye-opening. That's why I think those of us who know a little bit about that kind of life are so shocked by what happened last night, that you just draw the military.
What happened last night? I haven't read
Tom pulled the military. Yeah.
I haven't read the news today. What happened?
Okay, so what happened last night is, so we have a president right now. I'm probably not going to put this up on Facebook this time because I'm probably not going to do that. So what happened last night that the president we currently have is has decided that everybody is too weak, and that the way to deal with people is to get the military. And he said that that the governors are a laughingstock, and that if they don't get we know the National Guard is under the governors, right? So the governor of a state is the commander-in-chief for the National Guard, whereas the president is the commander-in-chief for the rest of the army, right? The rest of the military. But the governors are the commander-in-chief for the National Guard. And he said, if you don't get the National Guard to do this, I'm going to send the military. And he wanted to have a photo op. And there's a little church across the street from the White House. And so what he did was he sent the National Guard to violently clear with pepper spray and spraying peaceful protesters off the street so that the president could walk over to the church and hold up a Bible, like, you know, when people raise their right hand with like that, you know, in front of the church. And he sees nothing wrong with that. Right? I mean, he doesn't see anything. And I mean, we all, those of us who are working in the behavioral health field or have people that are also mental health, you know, I'm not a mental professional, but, you know, sometimes you just,
yes,
that guy's sick. He's just missing the capacity. There's nothing you can do about it. And we don't have to try, you know, we have to try to get sense into him because there wouldn't be a place to put that. But that's what happened. And that is what you see in what we saw in China. Just spray the Tiananmen Square, spray it empty. You know, just there was shooting yesterday where somebody was killed in Louisiana. You know, it's happening. And at the same time, you see people doing unbelievable things. Friends of mine have a friendly kitchen. They create a friendly kitchen in East New York. you know, a restaurant owner barely could keep open during the Corona crisis. And he gave his kitchen to this little organization, like a, you know, they just said, let's cook for people in Queens, right? So they created like 300 meals a week for people in Queens, and they got looted last night, you know, and you just gotta take a breath and take a step back and breathe, just breathe. And I hear you from what you said, you know, in Russia or during Nazi Germany, the place was not to get killed as quickly as possible. It was not to open up your mouth and, you know, sign the pamphlets that you know would put you on the list. That's what people did who were just angry. That's not what you do when you're smarter and wiser, and we're too old for this. Right? I think we're all in this call, we're too old to be stupid like that. You can do that when you're a teenager, but I'm not a teenager. Right? So yeah, that's what happened. And what it did was it gave an opportunity for the first time today to really get a solid speech from the Democratic candidate onto the news media. And he gave one heck of a speech. He was very presidential. He was very strong. He was very clear. Yeah. History, it's craziness. Judy, smile and take a breath. It's going to be okay. You are going to be okay. And I see you here next week, and you come back, okay? And you tell us you wrote something and didn't publish it. I'm pushy like that. I'm German, so don't write something, don't publish it. I just tell you anyway. But you get my point, right? Do what you love, and don't tell people. If somebody holds you back, just don't tell them you're doing it. They can't hold you back from something they don't know you're doing. But you have the freedom to think your thoughts and to feel your feelings and to do the things that are right for you. And you can choose how small or big you want to do that. But you can choose. You don't need somebody to give you the whole internet in order to make a difference. None of us would be prepared to handle that responsibility. We don't have the overhead. But we do have the overhead to control what we're doing, what comes out of our mouth. And as an activist, might as well. And I'm sorry it's hard right now for all of you. Everybody. It's very hard, I know.
Thank you, Ingrid. You were such a big help and inspiration, and yeah, I have a lot of thoughts in my head and feeling for action.
You all are powerful, powerful women. Powerful women with a great deal of impact and influence. That's also why some people might be afraid of you. If you don't have at least a few people who don't like you in your life, you're not doing it right.
Okay.
Seriously. Nell is cracking up over it. But
I know, but she's right. Yeah.
Likes you right now, then who the hell are you? What gives you the
people
right
pleaser if no one hates you?
You tell everybody what they want to hear, even if they're jerks. A jerk always wants to hear jerky stuff. Why do they like you? Why does a jerk like you? They should not like you right now. Like, I don't like you. Why do you like me? What am I doing wrong? Seriously, right? If you have nobody who puts at least one big fat boulder in your way and tells you have no right to do what you're doing and no right to say what you're saying, you're not getting it right. The question is, are you going to focus on them now, or are you just going to say, yes, I got my no, and you just move in a different direction? But you need to make up your mind and fight the fight you can. And if you don't have a lot of energy, then use the one you have, and the rest of it just sit in the garden and it'll suck. Or two. Or spinning is fun. Spinning is very fun. It's very relaxing. It's very peaceful. Whatever it is you're doing. Okay. Is this helpful?
Very helpful.
In some way.
Very helpful.
Judy, I can't read you right now, and I don't know why. I just let you off the hook because I actually have a client in like 3 minutes, so I need to go. Yeah. Let me see what time it is.
Bye. Thank you.
No.
Bye.
I just want to make sure that you guys are all okay.
We are okay.
Okay, so we're going to do this again next Tuesday, and I want to make sure that please spread the word. Okay, this week was very small because I just sent out an email yesterday, and I think that was probably okay. Usually on these calls, we tap a whole lot more than we tap today, a whole lot more. And I think we should probably do that again next week. But today just seemed to be the right thing to do this way. All right. Love you guys. This is what my
everybody.
next daughter would do. So stay strong, okay? And go find a place where you need it because you will not have to look very far. Okay?
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.